Close your eyes for a moment and let the 70s find you. The crackle of a vinyl record dropping onto the turntable. The smell of warm rubber from a brand new space hopper sitting in the garden. The taste of sherbet fizzing on your tongue while your fingers stuck to everything they touched. The 1970s did not do quiet. They were bold and bright and completely bonkers. This was a decade that gave us crazes so wild they swept the entire country in weeks and vanished almost as fast. Some of them got banned, some of them got you injured. And wait until we get to number 3. Because in 1970, 4,000 of ordinary Brits decided the best way to make a statement was to take off all their clothes and run. These are 15 fun fads from the 1970s. You have probably forgotten, but the second you hear them, it will all come rushing back. Welcome back to the channel. If these memories already have you smiling, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us which 70s fad you remember most. Now let us rewind the clock and start with number 15, the smiley face. That simple yellow circle with 2 dots and a curved line. It showed up everywhere in the early 70s. Badges, stickers, t-shirts, pencil cases, lunchboxes. Brothers Bernard and Murray Spain mass-produced the design starting in 1971, and it spread across Britain like wildfire. Every kid had one pinned to a denim jacket or stuck to a school bag. It cost almost nothing, but wearing one felt like joining a club. No slogan, no brand, just a grin that said everything was all right. Today, that same smiley face has been reimagined by fashion houses worth billions. But back then it belonged to everyone, and it did not cost your mum a penny. Now, if a smiley badge felt like the simplest thing you could own, the next fad on our list made it look complicated. Number 14, pet rocks. In 1975, a man from California named Gary Dole walked into a bar and came out with the most ridiculous idea of the decade. He packaged smooth stones in little cardboard boxes with air holes and straw bedding. Each one came with a care manual explaining how to train your rock to sit and stay. It crossed the Atlantic and became a talking point in every British playground and office. Dahl sold over 1 million of them at $4 each and became a millionaire from selling stones. It was absurd. It was genius. And it said something beautiful about the 70s. You did not need technology to have fun. You just needed a sense of humor and a rock. But not every 70s craze was so gentle. Some of them left bruises. Number 13. Clackers. 2 hard acrylic balls attached to a string with a ring in the middle. You swung them up and down until they smashed together with a deafening crack. The summer of 1971 belonged to clackers. Every playground in Britain echoed with that rhythmic clack, clack, clack. Kids competed to see who could get them swinging in a full arc, hitting top and bottom without stopping. The problem was the balls sometimes shattered on impact, sending sharp fragments flying. Schools banned them. Parents confiscated them. Doctors treated the injuries. But that only made kids want them more. If you still have a tiny scar on your knuckle from a clacker accident, you are not alone. Over 50 years later, people still remember the sting. Speaking of things that left a mark on your body, the next fad left grass stains on your knees and a permanent smile on your face. Number 12. Space hoppers. Christmas 1971. They must have toys. A bright orange rubber ball with a face and 2 horns you gripped while bouncing down the street like a maniac. That smell of new rubber when you first pulled it from the box. The squeak of your hands on the horns. The thud as you landed on the lawn and launched yourself again. Races down pavements. Chaos at birthday parties. Space hoppers sold in the millions across Britain, and nearly every child of the 70s has a memory of one. Recent surveys show space hoppers still rank among the top 10 most nostalgic toys in Britain. They needed no batteries, no instructions, just a garden and a willingness to fall off. Now we have covered the playground. But the 70s had fads that took over your entire house too. And if you think bouncing down the street was fun, Wait until we get to number 4. That one turned Friday nights into something truly electric. Number 11. Macrame. Walk into any British living room in the mid-70s and you would find it. Knotted rope plant hangers dangling from ceiling hooks, elaborate wall hangings with geometric patterns, owl-shaped decorations staring at you from above the fireplace. Macrame was not just a craft, it was a movement. Mothers and grandmothers spent hours knotting jute and cotton into intricate designs. Craft shops sold kits by the thousands. Every woman's magazine ran a macrame pattern. It was homemade, personal, the complete opposite of mass-produced. And somewhere in your memory there is probably someone you loved sitting at a kitchen table with rough rope between their fingers, making something beautiful out of nothing. From handmade creations to the centerpiece of every dinner party, the next fad turned eating into a performance. Number 10. Fondue sets. If you got married in the 1970s, you received at least one as a wedding gift, probably 3. The fondue set sat in the middle of the dining table like a trophy. Melted cheese, cubes of bread on long forks, chocolate sauce with strawberries if you were feeling fancy. It turned a simple meal into a social event. Everyone gathered around dipping and chatting and inevitably dripping cheese on the tablecloth. It was communal and messy and wonderful. Today, fondue restaurants still operate across Europe, and the trend has seen a revival on social media with millions of views on fondue content. But nothing matches the original. A crowded kitchen, a bubbling pot, and the sound of friends laughing over something as simple as melted cheese on bread. The kitchen was not the only room getting a makeover in the 70s. The next fad turned your bedroom into something from another planet. Number 9. Lava lamps. Invented by a British man named Edward Craven Walker in 1963, they hit their peak in the 70s. That tall, tapered glass filled with colored wax that rose and fell in slow, hypnotic blobs. You would sit in a darkened bedroom, watching it for what felt like hours. Blue, red, purple, green, the warm glow on the ceiling, the gentle hum of the bulb. It was part decoration, part meditation. Lava lamps are still manufactured today, with the original British company Mathmos still producing them in Poole, Dorset. But in the 70s, they were not retro. They were the future. And every teenager in Britain wanted one glowing in the corner of their room. If the lava lamp was about watching something magical, the next fad was about wearing it. Number 8. Mood rings. A band of metal with a stone made from liquid crystal that changed color depending on your body temperature. Blue meant you were calm. Green meant normal. Black meant stressed or cold. They appeared in the mid-70s, created by Joshua Reynolds in 1975, and within months, every school in Britain had them. Girls compared colors at break time. Boys pretended they were not interested, then checked their own when no one was looking. They did not really work, of course. The science was shaky at best, but nobody cared. The mystery was the whole point. And that tiny thrill of looking down at your hand and believing a ring could read your feelings. That was pure 70s magic. Now we are moving into the bolder side of the decade. The fads that did not just sit on your finger or glow in your room. These ones changed the way your whole house looked and sounded. Number 7. Beaded curtains. Strings of wooden or plastic beads hanging in every doorway. They served absolutely no practical purpose. They did not keep heat in. They did not keep the noise out. But the sound they made when you walked through them, that cascading clatter of beads parting around your shoulders, that sound was the 70s. Front rooms, kitchen doorways, bedroom entrances, beaded curtains turned every threshold into a small event. You did not just walk into a room, you announced yourself. And if you grew up in a house that had them, you can hear that sound right now without even trying. From the sounds inside the house to the sounds on the street outside, the next fad scraped its way across every pavement in Britain. Number 6. Skateboarding. The first wave hit Britain in the mid-70s when urethane wheels replaced the old clay ones, and suddenly the boards actually worked. It came straight from California and landed hard on British concrete. Car parks became skate parks, pavements became half-pipes. Every kid in the neighborhood wanted a board, and the ones who had them were instant legends. Concrete playgrounds and empty swimming pools became the proving grounds. Knees were scraped, elbows were grazed. Mums were horrified. Then, almost as quickly as it arrived, the craze faded before roaring back in the 80s. But that first wave, that brief, glorious summer of sidewalk surfing on British streets, if you were there, you would never forget it. Now, if skateboarding was about rebellion from the ankles down, the next fad was rebellion from the ankles up. Number 5. Platform shoes. Soles thick enough to add 3 or 4 inches to your height. Thick enough to twist an ankle on a cobblestone. Men and women wore them. Glam rock demanded them. Mark Bolan wore them. David Bowie wore them. And if they wore them, then so did half of Britain. Walking became an act of courage. Dancing became an act of faith. The heavier they were, the better. The taller the sole, the cooler you looked. Or at least that is what you told yourself as you wobbled down the high street trying not to fall over. Platform shoes were glorious and ridiculous in equal measure, just like the decade that created them. And if you could stay upright on platforms, you were ready for what came next. Number 4. Roller disco. The late 70s took roller skating and crashed it headfirst into Saturday Night Fever. The result was pure magic. Roller rinks with mirror balls spinning overhead, colored lights bouncing off the walls, the Bee Gees pounding through the speakers. You laced up your skates and you rolled out onto that wooden floor, and for a few hours nothing else mattered. You did not need to be good. You just needed to show up. Roller rinks popped up across Britain, from London to Leeds to Glasgow. It was a community. It was freedom. It was a Friday night ritual that made you feel alive. The rumble of wheels on polished wood, the flash of spinning lights, the buzz of being young and moving fast. If number 12 got you bouncing, this one got you flying. Now we are into the final 3, and these are the fads that truly defined the spirit of the decade, starting with the one we teased right at the beginning. Number 3. Streaking. 1974. The year Britain collectively decided to take its clothes off. Streaking had started on American college campuses, but it crossed the Atlantic and the British made it their own. The most famous moment came at Twickenham on the 20th of April 1974, when an Australian named Michael O'Brien sprinted across the pitch during the England versus France rugby match. A policeman tackled him and in a moment of pure British decency used his helmet to cover O'Brien's modesty. The photograph became one of the most iconic images of the decade. Meanwhile, Ray Stevens took his novelty song The Streak to number 1 in the UK charts. Streaking was daft and harmless and perfectly captured a nation that still knew how to laugh at itself. You could not imagine it today. But back then, it was just the 70s being the 70s. From bearing it all to broadcasting it all. The next fad gave ordinary people a voice before the internet even existed. Number 2. CB radio. Citizens Band Radio was a short-range communication system that let you talk to strangers using a call sign and a handset. In America, it was the tool of long-haul truckers. In Britain, it became the obsession of bedroom hobbyists and bored teenagers. The catch was that CB radio was technically illegal in the UK until 1981, which of course made it even more thrilling. Aerials poked out of bedroom windows across the country. Breaker Breaker 19 became a catchphrase. Everyone had a handle. Everyone had a channel. You could sit in your bedroom in Birmingham and talk to a stranger in Bristol, and it felt like the most exciting thing in the world. When CB radio was finally legalized, it became one of the best-selling Christmas gifts of 1981. But ironically, once it was legal, the thrill faded fast. It was the forbidden frequency that made it magic, and for a few glorious years before mobile phones and social media, CB radio was the original way to connect. And finally, number 1. The fad that summed up everything the 70s stood for: waterbeds. If you had a waterbed in the 1970s, you had arrived. This was not just a mattress. It was a statement. A vinyl bladder filled with heated water sitting on a heavy wooden frame in your bedroom. The slow, warm wave rolling beneath you every time you moved. The gentle slosh as you turned over in the dark. Filling one took hours with a garden hose threaded through the house. Moving one required draining it first and praying nothing leaked. They were exotic, impractical, wonderfully ridiculous. And in the mid-70s, they were the ultimate symbol of modern living. At their peak in the 1980s, waterbeds made up roughly 20% of all mattress sales in some markets. They were heavy enough to crack floor joists, warm enough to send you to sleep in minutes, and one stray pin could turn your bedroom into a swimming pool. Waterbeds were everything the 70s stood for: bold, ambitious, slightly mad, and absolutely unforgettable. The 70s were not perfect, but they were fun, unfiltered, unplugged, and unapologetically daft. From Smiley badges to waterbeds, every fad on this list came from a time when joy did not need a screen or a download or anyone's permission. It just needed imagination and a willingness to look a bit ridiculous. Which of these fads do you remember most? Tell us in the comments, and if we missed one that still lives in your memory, let us know. Share this video with someone who bounced on a space hopper or clacked their way through a school ban or lay awake on a waterbed wondering if it would spring a leak. Subscribe for more trips down memory lane, because every fad that makes you smile is a piece of who you are, and those pieces are worth keeping.